So printing press today we will discuss about the printing press and how it started, right? So as we know that it started in 1450 and it started in Western Europe. And this machine was invented by Johannes Gutenberg and he was in Germany. So in 1450, the period we discussed earlier also that this was the period which is called the period of Renaissance, right? Renaissance means new ideas, scientific revolution, religious reformation. All things happened at that time, and society came out from the clutches of the church system. Uh, Earlier, what used to happen that everything, even personal life, used to be controlled by the church. In 1450, when Renaissance was happening and so many things was going on in social sector, in business, people were trying to go beyond the ocean and explore the new areas and build up a new business model. So during that time, what happened that scientific revolution also took place, and printing press was one of the invention, and it was done by Johannes Gutenberg. And because the period is so important, that's why it became a tool of knowledge explosion. And we discussed about all these things earlier also that how printing press started printing material in local languages, right? In German, in French, and other languages. And now people who were not uh, uh, knowing Latin language, now they were also able to read the idea of Bible and some other related ideas. So that's why this printing press became important. So we have already discussed these things. So now today we will focus our discussion on the working mechanism of these printing presses. Right. So you have to remember that the first printing machine was designed by Johannes Gutenberg in Germany in 1450. What used to be in Middle Ages? In Middle Ages, monks used to write through hand, and it took a long time, very expensive. And at that time, pages for writing used to be made of parchment and vellum. Parchment used to be the sheep skin, right? And vellum used to be calf skin. So they used to have the skin of calf or sheep, and on that they used to write the thing which they wanted to store or which they wanted to, I mean, take it to the next generation. So they used to write in this way. So and script was Gothic, and Gothic script was little bit very hard to uh, read. This is the Gothic script, and you saw the thing which is we call font. So when we sometimes we pick wrong font, and even now if you pick wrong font and if you write something in that font, it is not easy to read. So similarly, Gothic font was not very much easy to understand the way it was printed. So this was the thing in Middle Ages. So in the Middle Ages, writing was done on vellum and parchment. Parchment used to be made of sheep skin, and vellum used to be made from calf skin. And at that time, Gothic was there, and in through Gothic script they used to write, but Gothic script was very hard to read. Right. This is the parchment. This is the vellum. You can see how it is written, and it is very hard. It is written in Latin, so we don't know Latin, but it is even by seeing this, we feel that it is a little bit very hard to read, right? So this is the problem. In China, first book printed in 868, right? So China claimed that printing press, the kind of thing Western world claim, that is not like that. They used to print it way before 1450, and they claim that 868 in during this year they published their first book. Movable type, individual letter on wood or clay blocks that are arranged to form words. So the thing which we know that it happened in 1450 when Gutenberg Press was invented. But China claimed that no, they used to do it earlier also. But these kind of claims are being made. We don't know. And this is also a fact that Western world claim that all the things have done by them only. So this is also a case. But yes, this is accepted fact that first printing press is designed by Johannes Gutenberg. And reason is simple that uh, printing press of Gutenberg created a knowledge explosion. Printing press of Johannes Gutenberg made a change in the society. So that's why, in that sense, also we can say that yes, that was the first printing press. Because if such kind of machines was made in China in 868, why it was not so popular? Why it was not used to publish large amount of books and large amount of written material? Why it was not publishing in local languages so that people may understand? In that sense, we can say that in India, when Ashoka was inscribing on stone, that was in Pali and other languages. So those languages were very easy to understand for common people. So in that sense, we can say that yes, Emperor Ashoka was very much interested in communicating with the common people, right? But that was limited thing. These inscriptions were not like regular news. It was just moral values, right? And those moral values was permanent. Once it is inscribed, then it was placed in a public place, and it remained for years and years, right? But 1450 invention was in that sense very different, right? So anyway, I mean, this is the thing we also need to understand, that yes, in China claim that they have made such kind of things. This is the photograph of their wooden kind of material, how they used to do it. They used to, I mean, you can see here that this is the letters, and they have arranged these letters, and this is paper. And if paper is pressed against these letters, then printing will be done. So this is way they used to print. So Gutenberg invented it. How it was different? He knew that printing technology already existed. He was known to this fact that yes, printing is being done. He combined existing technology and his own ideas, right? And how he did it, right? At that time, there were four things which was very much important, right? And which helped Gutenberg to invent such kind of print. Because if you have some invention, and if you don't have the related material, right? If you don't have the material needed to for printing, then what will you do with that machine? So at that time, four things was available, and they used all those four things in bringing printing revolution in this world. Right. First thing was Chinese paper. Chinese paper, it means that, I mean, the paper we use today. So Chinese paper came at that time, and it replaced the parchment and vellum, right? As you know, calf skin and sheep skin, it was very hard, and you cannot print it. You can write by your hand, but if you will try to print something on parchment or vellum, it is very difficult. You cannot make impression on animal skin, right? So when Chinese paper came, so it replaced parchment and vellum. So this was the first thing which helped him. Second was wine press screw, right? So wine press, the process, I mean, the process of making wine, they used to have a screw. So through that, they used to, seal the, container for making wine. So that wine screw was used in printing press also, right? So that screw, he used that screw to make impression on the paper, right? So this was the second thing. Third was movable type. As I told you, that Gutenberg made metal letters. He used metals, and through metal he used to make movable types. And what was the benefit of movable types made of metal letters? It can be washed. Once it is used, you can wash these metal letters, and then you can again use those metal letters. But if it is wooden letters, then after 2 3 impression, sorry, it is unusable kind of thing. So you cannot use it again and again. So when he came up with this metal letters, it also helped him for I mean making printing press and using printing press basically. And Carolingian script. This was a new font that was easier to read. Gothic script was, as you have already seen, that it was a little difficult. So now we had a new script, Carolingian script, and due to that, it was very much easy to print. And even, English, why English became so popular? This is also a fact to know that in English there are, letters, limited letters, and those letters can be used very easily, right? But when you come to Hindi, right? In Hindi, apart from अक्षर जो होते हैं, अक्षर के अलावा कई सारे वो भी हैं, हर्षकार, दीर्घकार, बिंदी, चंद्र बिंदु, पता नहीं और क्या क्या चीजें हैं उसमें। तो आप समझिए कि एक ही सेंटेंस अगर बनाना हो इंग्लिश में और एक ही सेंटेंस बनाना हो हिंदी में, तो हिंदी के लिए ज्यादा मेटल टाइप चाहिए होगा। एक हर्षिकार के साथ चाहिए, एक बिना हर्षिकार के चाहिए, एक दीर्घिकार के साथ चाहिए, एक बिना दीर्घिकार के साथ चाहिए, एक बिंदी वाला चाहिए, चंद्रबिंदु वाला चाहिए, एक हलंत वाला चाहिए, एक री वाला जो लगता है कृतज्ञ में जैसे कि वो वाला चाहिए। So very difficult. I mean, Hindi, when these types came to India, then also it was very difficult to publish in Hindi or in any other languages, right? Because it was not easy. The thing which they used to do with only 28, movable type, and for the same thing in Hindi or in other Indian languages, they used to have 2,000, 3,000 letters, and they have to arrange them accordingly. So it was very hard to print in Hindi, right? This is also a limitation of the our language. So these are the movable types. They used to put it in different blocks as you are seeing it. And at the time of arrangement, at the time of arranging these things, you just pick a letter from the defined box and you arrange that letter. And accordingly, you keep arranging and you form a sentence. So this is how they used to do it. This is the difference between Gothic script and Carolingian script. You must be seeing it. That Carolingian script is very easy to read, and the same Gothic script ABCD, it is very difficult to read, right? So this is the difference between Carolingian script. This is wine press screw, right? So you must be seeing this handle, right? In left side of your image, you must be seeing a handle, and you can put paper beneath that, and if you push that, if you pull that handle, then it will make an impression. So this is the wine press screw. So he used all these things, right? As you can see, that Carolingian script, movable types, right hand side, wine press screw. You put paper there, and you can just pull the screw. Impression will be made. So he, used all the available thing, and out of that he made a machine. It is not a kind of electricity run machine. It is a handmade machine. He used to use man force to publish any content, right? So, but because it was very much efficient in printing, that's why we call it machine. So this is how it is being done. You can put a paper beneath, and you just pull the uh, screw, and it will make an impression, right? So first book printed on a printing press using metal movable type was Gutenberg Bible in 1470, right? So this was the first book. So if someone asks you that which was the first book published through Gutenberg Press, that was the Bible. So what was the effect of Gutenberg Press, and why we say that this was a very revolutionary thing during that time? First, books were cheaper to make and cheaper to buy, right? So if production of a thing become low, then price will come down, and certainly more people will be able to buy that product and read that product. So first thing which affected the whole printing process was that book became cheaper. Second, books were small and easy to carry. Earlier used to think about vellum and parchment when they used to write on that. It can be used for storing thing. You just write and store it in safe, and it's a kind of history writing kind of thing that when someone will find it, then they will realize that what was happening during that era. So parchment vellum can be used for that purpose only. But if you want to store it, if you want to carry it, if you want to read it, it is very difficult. So now when this kind of printing started, books became small in size and easy to carry. Even in India, I will find that when some publication houses came up with tabloid paper, so the purpose was simple that when while traveling, people feel very difficult in carrying broadsheet papers. It was very if you open it in public, sometimes you feel difficulty in arranging it back. So a tabloid paper is little easy. You just read it like a book and just close it. So it is also a fact which affect reading habit of people. If the book is easy to carry, if it is easy to read, if the script is easy to read, it helps in promoting reading behavior. So second thing which helped in printing, that was book became small and easy to carry. Third thing, most people could afford them now, right? And printing in language other than Latin, right? Now, Gutenberg Press, because this came, what happened that anybody can have that machine and they can use their own language to publish anything. Before that, these kind of things, writing kind of things were done by monks and by uh, some people very much the people who were appointed by kings and these kind of people to write their history. So now when this printing press came, then anybody can have their publication in their own language. Now literacy increased in Europe, right? Because now reading became one of the privileged thing in the society. If you don't read, even now you go to your village and the place where you live, if a household is not buying a newspaper, people feel that that house is backward. So the same thing applies to Europe also. When these kind of printing material were available in the market, and if you are not reading it, then certainly you were considered the backward people. So that's why literacy increased, because now people wanted to read. Why? Because materials were available. So this was the fifth effect of Gutenberg printing press. New ideas spread quickly. Now I understand that now if you have new idea, any kind of idea can be published now. Organized system of spelling, grammar, punctuation, a kind of industrial kind of things, a possibility of industry emerged at that time. Now when printing became uh, widespread, when a lot of things were printed, then obviously people started thinking of these things also, that whether word is spelled correctly, it is grammatically right or not, punctuation is correct or not. So this kind of system also emerged. So this also helped in you can say that a success of a language, and it can also help in growth of a particular language. Organized book formats also came, that if you are printing something, then it must be in a format. So now title, table, contents, pages, index, these kind of things also emerge. So you can understand that when a thing comes up, when printing press came, then lot many things happened, and now we can see all these changes very much clearly. So how it spread? The first printing press in England, established in 1477, London, soon became one of the most important center of printers. Authorities limited printing to London in order to keep an eye on printers. So when printing machines came, when printing became widespread, then it is also a matter of concern to the authority how to control the printing, what kind of thing is published. And I mean, authorities were also interested in these kind of things because at that time, people were very much aware that anything can be right against the kingdom. They can run some kind of revolution. So authorities were always very much concerned about all these things. So they limited the printing to London only. They did not permit printing some other distant places. So this was the thing. Printers were licensed and subject to severe penalties if they disobeyed the law. The same thing what happened in India we all already discussed. Same thing was happening in Europe also. In 1584, Cambridge University also started their own printing press. So you can understand the Cambridge University. I mean, in 1584, and in India, what was happening in 1584? If you will see, you must be you will find that at that time, I think it was the time of Jahangir. I think 1584. At that time, Jahangir was ruling this country, and um, at that time, you can understand medieval form of governance. He was busy in um, capturing new areas, including more elephants and horses in the army. These kind of things were going on in India. Uh, so can understand that importance of Cambridge University. In 1587, Oxford University also followed the same thing, and it has its own printing press. In 1593, Shakespeare, Venus and Adonis was printed. This represented the start of a new era in literature. So Venus Adonis is a I mean, very nice story. You may read it. It's a love story. So you can read it. And in 1593 it was published. So you can understand the kind of knowledge explosion happened in Western Europe during this period. And we are very late in this kind of thing. Even now we are talking about Renaissance and these kind of things. And I always say that still India need a Renaissance. India is still very much indulged in medieval kind of discussions. We discuss all old things, right? We don't discuss new things. We don't discuss science. We don't discuss technology. We discuss religion. We discuss communalism. We discuss all those, I mean, conservative ideas, which, Europe is very much out of those kind of things in 16th century, right? So we have to do a lot more to come out of these kind of discussions, right? So this is how printing spread in Europe. Printing press and newspaper. Printers in Northern Europe produced mostly religious books. Italian printers printed secular works, Greek and Roman classics, stories of secular Italian writers, and scientific works of Renaissance scholars. So you can understand, Northern Europe was very much conservative at that time, but in the same time, Italian press was very much modern. They used to publish the Greek, and who were the Greek philosophers? Greek philosophers were, Socrates, Pluto. These were the philosopher of Greece, and they used to publish their ideas. So you can understand they were uh, gaining new idea, modern ideas, and they were very much understanding the scientific thing. An important early use of printing was pamphlet reporting, single news event, and usually printed in one side. So first, I mean, when we talk about newspaper, it started with pamphlet reporting, right? In one page, you just write something, print something, and distribute it among the common people. Even in India, also will find that extremist leaders, revolutionaries, basically Bhagat Singh and all those people, they use this pamphlet reporting. They used to write something, some messages on pamphlets, and they used to put it on walls and some other places. So this kind of things happened earlier. This was the early stage of reporting. In 16th and 17th centuries, thousands of pamphlets circulated in Europe. Pamphlets did not qualify a newspaper because they appeared once, right? So newspaper, as we discussed earlier also, newspaper is a periodical publication. Periodical publication means that it should come at regular, it should come regularly. Suppose if I am publishing a daily newspaper, then newspaper should come at daily basis. If I am publishing weekly newspaper, then every week I should come up with that and that with my newspaper, right? So this is why. But pamphlet used to be event centric. If something happening today, so we decided to circulate it among common people. So we published a pamphlet and distributed it among people. It ended. So there is no periodical kind of thing here. It is not very much clear that when next pamphlet will come. So when after 2 months or 3 months, when something new happened to my interest, then I will come up with a press publication. So pamphlet reporting, it's okay, but that did not qualify as newspaper, right? But it's okay. I mean, it's our definition of newspaper. But anyway, reporting started, publication started. So the consumption of news and demand of news started through pamphlet reporting. First regular newspaper printed in England, the Weekly News in 1622. Right, this is a point to remember. This newspaper had news items from Europe and occasionally from Asia and America also. So it was intercontinental kind of newspaper that they have international page also, and they used to publish content from other parts of the world also. So first regular newspaper printed in England was the Weekly News, and this is a point to remember. Rarely covered domestic issues as early period of the press marked by strict censorship. So what they do that if they find that local authorities are very much cynical about publishing any local issues. So that's why this was also a reason why these newspapers were covering stories from America and Asia. So they were not very much interested in covering domestic issues. First major change came after English Civil War. National news suddenly got a new importance. So we know that civil war happened in England, and it was just for democracy. They wanted to bring in democracy in India, in England, and due to that there was a civil war there, and writers, journalists, and all these kind of people were writing against the kingdom, and that's why you will find that in England democratic system established, right? So when it happened, then we find that yes, national news became very important. Now they were writing all the domestic issues, national issues in their newspapers. So newspapers in that sense liberated by breakdown of king's authority began to discuss freely local and national issues, right? So after king authority brought democracy, then newspapers was liberated because at that time you will find that when this kind of revolution was going on against the kingdom, these writers were front workers. They were very much in support of democratic system. So that's why when new system emerged, they got important place. Writing, newspaper got freedom. So this is how newspapers gained importance in the society. That's why it is not like that press got importance by luck. Press actually contributed in independence and freedom and all these kind of democratic revolutions. And that's why when new government formed in any part of the world, they gave importance to press. And that's why press is fourth pillar of the uh, country, in any country, right? So Gutenberg technique of printing could not be used for mass media as it was too slow. You cannot use wine press screw by pressing impression and printing 100 pages or 200 pages daily. It cannot be a medium of mass people. For mass media, you have to publish a huge amount of content, and the volume should be large. Then only it can be a mass media. So three inventions in 19th century made mass media printing possible. So one revolution is done at the time of Gutenberg. We discussed it, that how Chinese paper, the new script, wine press screw, all these things helped in popularizing printing. But now we have to make printing as a mass media content. And why? Because already pamphlet reporting was started, and through pamphlet reporting, it was found that people were very much eager and very much interested in knowing about the news happening all around the world. So that's why there was a pressure, there was a demand in the market of that kind of content. So that's why people were very much eager and interested to do some kind of evolution, some kind of, I mean, scientific invention, so that mass media could become possible. So what happened? That first thing is cheap wood pulp based paper came. So it means that paper became cheap. Second, web feed press. Web feed press, it means that a cylindrical kind of thing you must have seen in movies, that a cylindrical kind of paper roll is there, and it keep rolling and printing keeps happening, right? So by this way you can print more pages. You just roll the cylinder and pages will go down the area of printing, and that impression will be made on that paper. And now further you can cut that area and you can make it separate from the web feed, right? So Linotype typesetting machines came. Actually, at that time, two type of machine was there: monotype and linotype, right? So linotype means, as it suggests, that line used to be published. You have to, I mean, arrange a line, right? As it suggests, linotype. And monotype means that you have to arrange the letters, right? So later on, monotype became more popular. So it is about typesetting, right? But press, cylindrical press was there. That I mean, even now you will find that cylindrical press is there. That when, I mean, all the pages, newspaper feed is wrapped around a cylindrical kind of thing, and it goes for printing. So that way you can make more impression. Cylinder press, it was invented by German, his name was Frederick Koning, right? And improved by Napier in England. So these two people were very much important. These two people created this cylindrical press. And it was first used in United States in 1825. So you can understand that 1450 to 1825, all things were done through Gutenberg. Version of this press using two cylinders was developed by Richard Hoe in New York in 1932. So further, two cylindrical press, three cylindrical press, all these things were emerging. By 1835, a steam press was used to publish new works on rapidly. So now, I mean, the human power replaced by this steam press. So now machine was running the press, so obviously it will run fast, and now more printing can be done. Wood-based paper was much cheaper than traditional rag-based paper, although not as good quality and subject to degrading over time. So now wood-based paper was cheaper, but obviously you can see that newspaper quality, the paper used for printing newspaper, the quality of paper is not very good. But that's okay. It is just for 2 3 hour thing. You just read it and just use it for doing some other work. So I mean, it's okay. So that's why wood-based paper, because it was cheap, so it was very much in demand, and the demand of as printing has to be become a mass media product. So it was very intelligently, I mean, brought in for printing, right? The web-based press used a large roll of paper instead of individual sheets, as we discussed. So now, I mean, web-based paper means that a web of paper. I mean, just a cylindrical kind of thing, and all the paper roll is there, and you just run the cylinder and paper will keep coming. The paper was run through a curved plate on a metal cylinder. The type on the curved cylinder was inked and pressed against the paper. So as I am telling you that let me show you, if I can show you. So are you able to see this?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is cylinder press, right? So you can see that what happens that you just have to. This is a two cylinder press, and one is roll, the web of newspaper, which is wrapped around one another cylinder, right? So that used to go inside this area, right? And you inside this area, and you get the printed material here. So this is how it is done. So cylinder press made it easy, and now it was run by a steam engine, right? So because now it became easy, just to run a machine and you have just a typesetting thing, and that is put uh, between two cylinder, and you have to just run the roll, paper roll between these cylinders, and you will get it published. So this is how printing started and how it became easy. So the paper was trimmed to size afterwards. As I told you that after printing, you can trim it, you can cut it from the roll, and you can get your newspapers. So curved lead plates were created using a process of molten lead called stereotyping. Right. So lead was used in plates. What happens even now, if you will, visit has not been done, we will try to arrange a visit to printing press so that you can see how it is done. Even now, when page making is done on computer, you have to make uh, I mean, plates, right? So that plate used to print a material because plate is needed. Earlier, what used to be done that you have to arrange all these things by hand, but now it is done by computer. It is called desktop publishing, and through photo, and you just these photographs, the thing which you are doing on your newspaper on desktop, that can be brought into lead made plates, and that can be used for printing. Earlier it was not possible, so now photograph can also be printed. Why? Because that photographs can be brought to the plate, and then it is very easy to publish. So when you will visit the printing press, we will try to I mean arrange a demonstration that how these plates are made and how it is done, right? So newspapers relied on this process even into the late 1980s. Presses often came from Germany. So 1980s, till 1980s, in India you will find that linotype machine, monotype machine, some were still in use, right? When where they use their hand, they just press one, by hand, and they publish a thing. Especially the marriage cards, some other these kind of materials are being published through hand only, right? So even now you will find that this kind of printing press are in use, but in newspaper publishing also you will find that till 1980s, right? This German made printing press was very much in use. This is linotype machine, you can see, right? So the linotype machine printed entire lines of type, right? So linotype line, you can remember it that if it is linotype machine, it will print the entire lines. This meant compositors no longer had to laboriously set each letter by hand, right? Now one line can be published. Again, a lead tin alloy was melted in a machine to form the letters, right? So lead based, melted on machine, and that will form a letter. So this is linotype machine. Offset lithography came later on. Today, the dominant process of mass media printing dates from the 19th century. So offset machine also came, and it did not begin to generally replace lettered press. However, until about 1970, offset is based in this principle: oil and water do not mix. So how it works? It works like that. Offset. Offset means that what how it work. It work in a way that you have a while based printed area. It means that letters which need to be printed, which will be printed on paper, that will be while based, right? And the remaining part of area will be filled with water. Now, when the impression will be made, the while area will get published, and the watery area will not make an impression. So this work on a principle that oil and water do not mix. So that's why through mixing these two things, printing was done, and later on, it was run through a thermal kind of machine, and so that you can get a, I mean, not a damp kind of material. You get a, final product of final product which are not damp, right? So this is how printing is. So offset machine, even now, we will, if you go to the printing press, you will find that offset press is being used largely. So even now, this offset technology is in use. The offset method begins by producing a photograph of page, right? The photograph is transferred to a thin aluminum plate. Even now, aluminum plate is used. If you go to today's printing presses, you will find aluminum plate is in use. That plate is attached to the press. The image area hold the ink. It means the area which will be printed, and the non-image area are washed with a water-based fountain solution. Because the greasy ink repels the water, it prints on the paper while the rest is blank. This is how offset machine works. Right? So this technique, that photograph is transferred to a aluminum plate, this was again a revolution, right? That you can design a thing on your desktop or your computer, and you can just that photograph, that thing which is being designed on your desktop, that can be transferred to a aluminum plate. This is a revolution, because now you are replacing the manpower. Usually, if it did not happen, suppose this kind of techniques would not have come, then you have to arrange entire letters, entire line through hand, and that was very cumbersome work, right? So this is how press started. Then again, news gathering efforts were also there, because printing a newspaper is not only that you have printing technology, it also includes that how you gather news. So editors obtained most of their news simply by waiting for the post to bring out of town newspaper or letters. So what was the news gathering efforts? That people used to send letters, people used to send reports about their area, about some happenings, and editors used to wait for those letters, and if it comes, then it will be published. To improve the supply of news and its credibility, editors arrange for correspondents to forward reports to them. So now, when they find that yes, this is very much in demand, this product can be made a mass product, so they started hiring correspondents, so that their work would be to gather news and send it as early as possible to the publisher. In the late 18th century, newspapers gained the right to send observers to sit in the gallery in Parliament. You understand how slowly and slowly they were getting access to all the areas. Now, so now 18th century, the correspondent was sitting in the Parliament, right? And through that, they were gathering stories from there also, and they used to publish the proceedings of Parliament. In 1783, reporters in gallery finally get the permission to take notes, right? So earlier they were permitted to sit. Now they can take notes. What is being said by some speaker, how people are opposing to their statement, how voting is going on. So these kind of notes they were taking. Now shorthand becomes crucial qualification for the job. Think of the area shorthand. Even our time, I don't know you people know it or not, but our time when we were trying to get into the industry, uh, that time also shorthand was not very in fashion. But before our generation, one generation back, shorthand was in demand. Why shorthand was in demand? That if you go to cover a story, if you go to cover parliament, if you are go for a press conference, you can take note very easily. Just take all the things said by the speaker. So shorthand was in very much in demand at that time. A path-breaking reporting effort took place first time in England when John Perry sent himself to observe the French Revolution, right? 1789, the revolution happened, and the reporter named John Perry went to France to cover French Revolution, right? So in America, James Gordon Bennett was the person who was leading this kind of thing. So this is how news gathering efforts also got an momentum, and the game changer telegraph came in, right? So before that, very limited amount of content you were getting, but now when telegraph came, so now from any part of the world, small messages, some breaking kind of content can be sent to the office directly. So the speed, the breadth and reliability of news coverage came with Samuel Morse's invention of the telegraph. Samuel Morse invented telegraph, so that's why telegraph, the coded message sent through telegraph, that code is called Morse code, right? So Morse code, this is a name given by the person who invented that machine. So now you have a speed. Suppose something is happening in America, the person sitting there, they can just send some codes to the office and they will get the message. Now the things which are happening in other continents, that got also published in other continents. This happened due to telegraph. Newspapers became the major customer of the telegraph companies. So this is and slowly how media got popularity, and it kept moving ahead and kept introducing new thing, new technology, new way of gathering stories. So this is how uh, media flourished. Right? So telegraph transmission led to the formation of wire service, like the as I told you that agencies, news agencies, right? So when telegraph transmission came in, when telegraph came in, so many agencies dedicated for gathering news, they came into being. Now AP, AFP, Reuters, these kind of agencies came, and they were, very much indulged in gathering stories and selling it to the publication house. So now the all the newspaper publishers, they become customer of these agencies, because these agencies were very professional, and now newspapers also thought that why to waste money in sending correspondent to different part of the world. It is easy to get content from these agencies, right? So even now, if you go to publication house now, if you go to newspaper house, you will find, even if you can do content analysis also, that if a newspaper, how much stories they, I mean, get from agencies, you will find that very few amount of stories are of the direct correspondence. All the stories they cover from agencies, right? So agencies are very much important, and Associated Press is considered the oldest agency, and it was founded in 1848. So now we will, in next class, we will discuss about the formation of agencies, and we will come to know we will come to know about some important agencies of the world. Even we will discuss about the Indian news agencies also, like PTI and UNI, right? So this is the whole, history of printing press. So thank you.